Hey everybody, Ryan here for our latest installment of Friday Friend Check-In. Joining us today is a clinic staple and favorite, Chico Resch. When people ask me about Chico, I always say that he's one of the best persons I've met, and they assume I mean one of the best people I've met in the game, but I always kind of have to correct them and say no, just one of the best people I've met, period. Chico, you've done a lot in your time, over 500 games in the NHL, a Stanley Cup champion, gone on to coach in the National Hockey League, and now you've been working with the New Jersey Devils as a broadcaster and ambassador for the last few seasons. We last saw you here in Halifax in August. Why don't you give us a quick update of what the past 8 months have looked like for you?
Well, first of all, Ryan, I got to address that statement. If you said I'm one of the best guys you've met, I know you live in one of the great parts of the country for wonderful people. We've had the clinic there for 4 years already. And speaking of last year, one of the joys I had, and this is just a quick aside, but I've gotten to know Sidney Crosby quite well. And as you know, Sidney went through a tough time last year. You know, he was out for a long period of time. But each time we went in there, we kind of connected. And just what a terrific ambassador he is for the game. But he represents Halifax in that whole area. And so that's quite a compliment you paid me. And that puts a lot of pressure on me because I met a lot of people from the Halifax area. And they're all wonderful people. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. And then just in terms of, you know, the NHL, everybody knows what's going on with that. We're all hopeful. Don't know where that would lead. But generally, working with the Devils last year was kind of a difficult situation. We got off to a terrible start after, you know, we got the first overall pick with Jack Hughes. We made a trade for PK Subban. We signed a couple other agents, free agents. So our anticipation for a great season was really high. And it just kind of fell apart from the beginning of the season. We went 0-6-1. And then, as you know, in sports or maybe in any business, if the results aren't there, people lose their jobs. And unfortunately, head coach John Hines was fired. And then one of my best friends who really hired me, Ray Shiro, Freddie Shiro's son, who won the Cup with the Flyers, was let go as well. So it was really an unsettling year. Unfortunately for the Devils, they did start to get it going near the end of the season. But the bright spot for them, Ryan, was the fact that Mackenzie Blackwood, a Thunder Bay, Ontario young man, 23-year-old goalie, who's going to be a great one, really emerged as someone who could be a game changer and an impact goalie. So that was the bright spot. And, you know, but the fans, NHL fans, hockey fans in general, they're so loyal. They kept coming. They were very disappointed, but they were still talking about what lied ahead. So all in all, we thought, okay, we've gotten through the worst. And then wham, the coronavirus hit, and then it canceled the season. And so it turned out to be a pretty disappointing year in some respects.
For sure, I saw the news of Mr. Hines there being released and thought of you for sure. And I obviously know you guys have a lot of young talent there. Nico Fischer, former Halifax Moosehead. So hopefully things will trend up for you guys moving forward. Obviously, with the ups and downs you experienced maybe this year, and recognizing that that's just kind of the way of life. I'm wondering if you've ever received any advice, maybe in your earlier years or younger years, that you've really carried with you to today?
Well, you know, I had a daughter, I have a granddaughter, and of course, myself growing up, I realized the impact that people make on young kids when they're developing their thoughts and their ideas and their goals and their dreams of what they can become. And I know for me, one of the major points of my life was I didn't start playing hockey till I was 8, and then some of my friends decided they were going to play minor football. I lived in Regina, which had the Saskatchewan Roughriders, so I loved football. So I went out, and I didn't really know what to expect, but you had this heavy equipment, and then the kids would hit you and knock you down. And I remember this after the second practice, I went home and I said to my mom, I'm done. I just can't do this. This is just too tough. She said, oh, really? Did you sign up? And I said, yeah. She said, well, then you're finishing the year. You are not quitting. And I remember, Ryan, I went to my room. I can still remember, slam that door, crying, yelling. I'm not going back. But of course, with my mother, there was no negotiating. Once she said, no, this is what you're going to do. And so I went back, Ryan, and it turned out that I had a great year. It was a fun year, and I won a Sportsman of the Year award, whatever that meant. But that was a real shot of confidence that I needed. And then the other thing, I learned not to quit, of course, to never quit. As long as you don't quit, you're never a loser. You can't be. You just maybe fell short, or you're going to do better next time. But if you don't quit, you're never a loser. So that was the one thing I carried with me. And then in minor hockey, I had a couple of coaches just tell me that I was pretty good. I don't know that I was, because I couldn't even make junior B, but they told me I was pretty good. And they said the key is, again, to keep working. But one thing I sensed, and that's the great thing about hockey, is it teaches kids loyalty to your teammates, loyalty to yourself, that you have joined and the team needs you. I think for a lot of kids, they think, oh, it wouldn't matter if I was playing here or not. They'd get on without me. Well, of course, life would go on, but people really need other people as teammates. So that was the other thing I learned, that even if I didn't have a major role on a team, even if I was a backup goalie at times, that I still have a role, and an important role. And so those two things have really pushed me and kind of defined how I approach every situation, and that's never to quit, and to be a team player and part of the team, and whatever the coach tells you he wants you to do, or whatever role you get put into, just do the best you can.
You speak to getting through it and getting through it with teammates. I think maybe that can be transferable in today's times. Obviously, the uncertain times. I'd love for you to share how you're getting through these times. What has brought you encouragement and comfort in these times?
Well, my faith in Jesus really is kind of the platform for my life. That happened when I was 32 years old, 1980, when we won the Cup. And reading, the word from the scriptures and from the disciples, and even God said, take one day at a time. You don't know what tomorrow brings. He says, I take care of the sparrows every day. I'm certainly going to take care of my people, the people I love. And so that has helped me with this situation, because, life is always kind of upside down and uncertain for many, many people. I don't know about everyone listening, but I never go into cruise, it seems like, for a long period of time. So I thought, okay, new challenge here. What am I going to do? I felt bad for people who were working and lost their jobs, and, all that part of it. But then I said, well, what am I going to do with my free time? And so I come home here to Minnesota, and mainly what I've tried to do, Ryan, is to do some of the things that you always seem to be too busy to do. You know how we think? It's natural. Even kids, I can't just sit and think. I don't have time to read a book. I don't have time to kind of maybe pick up a hobby or a project or something that I've always wondered, would that be fun? Maybe to do something with wood, or if you're creative, or maybe pick up an instrument, and just something to say, I always was too busy to really stop and do this, but now I have a chance. And I think that's what I have learned from this. I've done a lot of projects around the house, and I've really, you tend to reach out to people. I think when a situation like this arises, Ryan, you have to be more intentional, because in your normal life, you just go and you just start your day and things just happen and you kind of live it. But now, and I think this is very important for hockey, before you play a hockey game, the coach knows it's going to be tough, and the players too. And they have an intentional plan that they're going to follow. You don't do it for one period and say, that wasn't that much fun. Let's play another style. So I guess to make it simple, I think all of us have had to be intentional on what we're thinking, what we're doing, and then, of course, reaching out to other people. Yesterday, I've done a lot of work with Hockey Ministries, and that's been around since 1980. And we had a Zoom or a conference call video. And Ryan, there were 31 players and announcers. Paul Henderson was there, Hall of Famers, Stanley Cup winners. I mean, it was a wonderful time to just kind of share for an hour and a half. But we would have never done that if we hadn't been kind of isolated and locked down. So I would just encourage the kids, you know, you have tremendous potential, you youngsters. You think you know what your strengths are, but you're not, you can't be sure. So in this time of being kind of stuck at home, just think, what can I do different today? I'm going to try something different. And I'm, maybe it's whatever. Maybe you've never done push-ups. Maybe you can still go out in your garage and shoot the puck more. You say, yeah, I've always thought, I want to shoot pucks, but then I'm busy and never get around to it. Or, whatever it is, just try to be intentional. Each morning you wake up and say, all right, Lord, what do you got for me today? It's going to be exciting, even though I'm in this situation, and just make the best of it and do that day after day. And pretty soon this will have passed, this craziness, and we'll be back. And hopefully at the Halifax hockey school that's coming up again. So I just want to thank you all for being part of today for me. And, friends, it's Friends Friday. And people in Halifax, I really cherish them as friends since I've come there for the last 4 years to do that camp. And so wish you all the best and see you in August, I hope.